think a lot of these politicians became gangsters. They're not there for the right reasons. I already did the gangster stuff. I already did the stealing stuff. Now I want to do the right thing. With all the robbery, all the treachery, all the killing, if we want to talk openly and truthfully, our government has become the mafia. You know, people from other parts of the world don't understand where we came from, where it was almost normal for us to get up and hear one of our friends got killed or one of our friends killed somebody. This government is 10 times worse than the mob because the mob don't have the ability to make the trillions of dollars in these transactions these government officials do. And unless this changes, we're gonna go down like Rome.
I strongly believe with all my heart. Hey John, good to have you here. It's been a little over 30 years since the last time I seen you.
Unbelievable, I didn't realize it was that long.
Yeah.
Just time flies.
96, actually it had to be before 96 because you went away in 96.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 95, around there.
Wow,
Yeah.
incredible.
So quite a few years. But you know, I've always, because I heard a lot about you. You know, I knew you from the neighborhood. Of course, we knew each other. We knew about each other. But I never knew that you were a ball player.
Yeah.
Because I never seen that part of you.
Yeah.
I seen you with baseball bats, but I never seen you with a ball with a baseball bat. So
Well,
got a little bit
I'm
different
better with a
back
ball with a baseball bat.
then. So I'm just curious. You had a scholarship. You were very athletic, good playing. We play hardball, right?
Yeah.
That's not just regular. We play hardball. And you had a scholarship to go to Tampa. And you had scouts watching you. You had some great promises. What happened?
Good question. I'm an idiot. So that's the first. You know, I was in love with the street, just the upbringing. My father's influence was strong on me, which was sports, but he was a gambler. He was in Aqueduct racetrack, and every gangster in the world was there, especially back then, you know that. And, I'd go to the boxing gym with Albert Ruggiano, who you grew up with them also. Their father was the boss in our neighborhood at the time. So I had that influence no matter where I went, whether it was to go to the gym and fight, whether it's to go to a baseball field. You know, Albert was my coach. His father was always there. And you're half into the game and you're half trying to show that you're this aggressive kid.
Okay.
And I think that I didn't realize it myself, but mentally, the street was winning, and it had a big influence on me.
So do you think you brought the street mentality onto the ball field?
Oh, 100%. I think it's one of the reasons what made me a good ball player, because I was always thinking. So you got to know the game mentally. People think baseball or any sport's a physical game. You hear that a lot about boxing. It's physical. It really isn't. It's mental. It's, an offensive, defensive strategy when you're in the ring, no different when you're playing baseball. And you're thinking about what he's going to throw as a pitcher at you when you're up at the plate. And you're also thinking when you're on the field, I played different positions as a kid, but at college, second base. And you're thinking about when's the guy going to lay down a bunt? Do I got to cover second? Is the guy going to steal from first? So it's a mental game on a constant basis. And it's a strategy. And, it's not just what people think, brute strength and, you hit a home run and you win the game. That's not, a lot of baseball, and they lost it in this era, was small ball. When you play small ball, advance a runner, bring a run in, stop trying to score 5 runs in an inning with home runs. And I think a lot of these teams, in my opinion, if I was coaching again, which I coached Little League, would be play a little more small ball. You got ball players making millions of dollars. They can't lay down a bunt. And you had guys like Phil Rizzuto could put that ball anywhere you want on this mat. It was like a golfer. A guy can hit a long ball, but when you got to hit the green, you got to be able to hit the green. You got to be able to bunt to be able to advance runners and play more technical baseball. And I think being around the mob helped me play technical baseball, believe it or not. Okay. They intertwined.
Well, you definitely had some kind of survival strategy for the streets, in a sense. So.
Well, a lot of luck. I mean, you know as well as I do, we've lost dozens of friends. You know, people from other parts of the world don't understand where we came from, where it was almost normal to us to get up and hear one of our friends got killed the day before, a day after, or one of our friends killed somebody. And it's a terrible way to grow up, but that's the inner city. And that's why I'm such an advocate, by the way, for the inner city, because we understand it. We know what's going on.
Yeah, well done. All right, but also you were in college, so you got an education in a sense, right?
Nah.
No, okay.
No.
Because I always seen you as a
I
sharp
look stupid.
guy.
I am stupid.
No, I never seen you stupid because you were good in business too.
Yeah, I was a businessman.
Okay.
I mean, I passed the Series 7 test. I got a stockbroker's license, but I had a good memory, and I still do, actually. So I would read 10 years of testing. And when I went for the stockbroker test, I didn't learn the formulas because I said it ain't necessary. Let me just memorize everything. So when the question comes out, I'll know the answer before I even have to go through a formula.
Okay.
But I did the same thing in school. In baseball, I was in high school. I was captain of the baseball team, junior and senior year. I played varsity all 4 years, and my teachers all passed me through because I was a star athlete in baseball. And unfortunately, there's a big influence and pressure on the teachers to pass you because they want you to they want to have a winning school with the in sports. And
Well, it's surprising because usually people who have really good memories are pretty good gamblers because you remember cards that came out, horse races. I mean, I had a friend of mine that had a photostatic memory of every horse race of this one horse that raced, and he would follow this horse around and make a ton of money with
well,
it.
you made a good point. I'll tell you a funny story. So, and I never really thought about it until you just asked me that question. My intertwining of sports and gangster and gambling all came together, actually, because my father was a big gambler, which you know. And he'd go to the track, and he'd go with Rouge and these guys to the track. He'd go with Vinny Sarah to the track. And he would play card games, private card games, poker. And I was a little kid. I had my hat, baseball bat backwards and the hat backwards. And maybe I was 6 years old, 5 years old, 7 years old. So these guys aren't taking me seriously. They think he's a cute little kid. He's hanging out with his father all night. And my father and me would give signals to each other because I would watch the other guy's cards. And I'd tell them the card. They didn't understand that at that age, I knew how to play cards. My father taught me so he could cheat. And I'm part of that. So, it's cute, it's funny, but it really isn't. At the same time, I'm getting an education from sports into the street. And, we would hustle, guys.
But you never became a big gambler.
I got smarter, too, because my father was a big gambler, and I seen the losing side. So I became the bookmaker. I would take the bets. And, so I didn't like to lose. My father, he didn't mind losing, I guess.
So your father taught you a good lesson.
I taught me a good
Don't
lesson.
do it this way. This is how you lose all your money. All right. I was a bad gambler. Yeah, I lost. I was one of the guys at the racetrack almost every day.
Well,
I used to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning just to go to the stables and see if I could fix races.
Yeah, I know. Well, we had the Greco brothers and guys that were jockeys. So we,
Exactly.
again, we had addictive personalities, and then we were athletic. So we liked boxing, we liked horse racing, we liked cards, we liked sports, because these are street. Even though I didn't understand it when I was that age, I'm like, I'm mixing in sports, but also with the street, because our jockey friends are giving us horses. They're holding back all the horses so we can win a race. They're telling us we're going to block out the 2 and the 6. Bet the exacta, bet the trifecta. And, the same thing with highlight. We go to the highlight games in Connecticut, and we started to understand, because we're athletic, all we got to do is get to 1 or 2 guys, and they'll throw the game for us, and we cut them in. So from loving sports, it also became part of the street.
Well, I was one of those guys that tried to do that, did get some tips, but lost a lot of money anyway. So it didn't work out too good for me. But anyway, so now you get after that there, you get hurt while you're playing ball, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you end up, you lost your scholarship?
No, I needed Tommy John surgery. And at the time, the New York Mets trainer was our doctor also for the University of Tampa. University of Tampa was a big baseball school. And my coach, Pete Mullery, was with Tampa Catholic High School. He's a big winning coach. And when we were kids, he was like a tyrant, but he was a great coach. And, I think about it now as the years went on, he just knew how to motivate you. He knew how to piss you off. He knew how to make you work. And he wanted me to take shots into my arm to help me with the elbow. I had
Threw it out.
Yeah, the tendons and the nerves. And the Tommy John surgery back then wasn't that famous of a surgery. It was new. And he wanted me to take the shots. The doctor told me, don't take the shots. But the coach told me if I don't take the shots, he's taking my scholarship away and go back home. And, so it was, I was being torn both ways, and I ended up taking the shots so I could keep playing, which tore my arm up worse. And after a half a season, I went back for surgery. And I came back to Tampa and for a couple of months, and then I left again. And I tried to take a 6-month leave from baseball and recoup my arm. Well, that didn't work out well.
Okay.
Because I jumped back in the street.
And got in trouble?
Right away. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So eventually the scholarship went away.
Eventually, it went away, and I went to California, College of the Canyons. I played with them, but they sucked. They were terrible. I shouldn't say sucked. It wasn't to the degree of where I was. So it's like stepping down 3 steps to go to a community college and play ball. So I left there and went back to Queens. I tried going to Queens College now, and not for education. There was a girl I liked from high school that went to Queens College, so I took some classes so I could sit next to her.
Okay.
And not take classes. But instead, I brought a bag of drugs with me, and I would sell coke in school, in college, and hang out with the girl. She was a straight-laced girl, nice girl. I was just a nutty guy, and I'd go to school, and I started getting a reputation as if you needed any kind of coke or any kind of drug, I had it. So I started making money by going to school, but not really being educated, because I was cheating my way through and copying and paying people to do my reports. And
All right. So then eventually you got, through all of that, you got involved in the streets, and then you stayed in the streets.
Yeah, I mean, guys like friends of mine like Kevin Bonner, and these guys were way ahead of me in the street. I was a bad kid, but a good kid still. I wasn't doing things that were out of control yet. They were already doing things out of control. So when people hear about me and later on, I bypassed everybody. But at that time, I was pretty good. I hung out with them. They were doing robberies, armed robberies, shootings, murders. At young ages, at 14, 15, they already started killing guys. And to me, I was like, I thought they were insane. I'm like, wow, these guys are nuts, And I never thought I would ever end up like them. But I became twice as bad.
What made you pull that way? What do you think? I mean,
I think, like, me and you were talking earlier yesterday, and I think a lot of it's about confidence. I talk about zip codes a lot. We came from the inner city. We didn't have no money. We grew up around gangsters and gamblers and people that hustled the street. We didn't grow up around executives and CEOs and CFOs and other influences. So when I looked at somebody, I was like, wow, this guy is making big money. He's got a lot of power. He's got beautiful girls around him. And the way I seem to be able to be like that guy is to do what that guy was doing. And, I just think it's about confidence. And I didn't believe in myself that I could ever be a CFO. I don't even think at that age I even knew what a CFO was. I was that blinded by my little world.
Nobody has to explain all that to me. I was completely out of all that stuff. I never paid attention to any of that stuff when I was growing up. But Brooklyn was a lot different than Queens back in them days too. But fighting was a part of your livelihood. You fight to, we fought with each other, and then we make up and we play ball, and it was no big thing. And then you had gang fights and race riots and you name it.
And you made a good point there too. When I was growing up, I grew up in the 60s, where I was born in 62. So I grew up in the height of racism.
Yeah.
right? So I'm on the borderline of Jamaica Avenue is Brooklyn, East New York. I went to school in East New York, Brooklyn. I stayed in Brooklyn. But then I went on the other side of Queens, and it was Irish, German, and then if you go down further, South Jamaica is black again.
Right.
So it was a mixed area. So I started staying with different groups of guys as a kid. From sports, first off, I learned not to, as a young kid, not to be a racist because I'm playing ball, especially baseball back then. Spanish was huge in it, and I played a lot of handball. So handball was a Spanish sport, a lot of Puerto Ricans and stuff. And then baseball was mixed, black, Spanish, this, that. So I never looked at skin, and my mother and father's best friends were black. So I had a different upbringing than most. So when I started seeing the race stuff going on, obviously I'm against it. I just don't know how to handle it because now I'm watching my friends. Some of them are racist, right? So that, there were stupid fights over nothing. They go into the black neighborhood, they fucking come there with, excuse my language, they come there with golf, baseball bats, golf clubs, and go after some kid that's on a bicycle because he's Spanish or black. Then if we go into their neighborhood, they did it to us. But then they didn't start with me. It was a little different because I had a lot of friends, and when they came through, people knew it was me. They go, nah, he's not white, he's John. And I was like, as a kid, what does that mean?
All right.
So you're getting educated as you're going.
You were a little accepted.
Yeah, it was accepted because I had a lot of mixed friends. But if another white guy walked in the same neighborhood as me, they're going to get jumped.
See, for me, I don't even remember the word racist. How it was taught in my home or in the neighborhoods is you stayed with your own kind.
Right.
You understand? So I look back at it then, and racism is taught. It's not something you're born with. You're just taught to be racist. So, but that happened in just about every one of the parts of the neighborhood. The black didn't like the white people. The Spanish, sometimes you had some that leaned more towards the black people, some leaned more towards the white people. So you had a whole different thing. So my neighborhood, that's just how it was. So if you went from my neighborhood to somebody else's neighborhood, which would be maybe 2 blocks down, you knew you were going to have some kind of battle going on. But I always didn't understand racism because it was just something that my families would say, you stood and you married your own kind. You didn't, I wouldn't know what the right word to say,
Interracial.
with a different.
Let me look. You see this complex over here, right? I don't know how many kids live here, but the good thing about complexes, and different from housing, a single family houses, you're dealing with your own family and friends.
Right.
But when you go in these complexes, you have Indians, you have Arabs, you have Catholics, you have Protestants, you have Muslims, you have white, you have black, you have Spanish. And when you take little kids and they go in that little area there where there's swings and stuff, and there's I'm talking about little kids now, not schoolyards. And they're 4 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old, and they're all playing with each other. They don't even have any idea to look at somebody and go, hey, he's different than me. He's a little boy, a little girl, they want to play with him.
Exactly.
You start getting taught that hate crap.
Exactly. That's what
and it's one of the reasons why, and I'm leading into the direct, sorry if I'm going all over the place here, but it's one of the reasons that led me into politics because I hate that. Because you could see somebody, and we can use 9/11. Do you know how many people were helping each other? They didn't ask you, you're Democrat. They didn't ask you, you're independent. Oh, before I help you, were you a Democrat? Oh, hey, what skin color are you? I'm not helping you. It doesn't exist. When life and death, and this is a shame for me to say this, when life and death is in jeopardy, people band together. So what do we always need? Some sort of chaos for them to be good to each other? That's crazy when you think about it. Now I'm an ex-gangster talking about loving each other and hate each other. I'm the last person that should be talking about that. The average person should be saying what I'm saying. Because people say, well, F this guy, he was a killer, he was this. As a kid, I'm not justifying that. It was a terrible world and I lived a bad life. But I also see at the same time, like, what's wrong with everybody? Why when someone's pulled over and stuck with a car and I see a woman, I don't see her as a good-looking woman, a non-attractive woman, an older woman, a black woman. If I'm going to pull off, I'm going to help because I feel bad the person's stuck.
Right.
You don't come out with a book and go, okay, let me check these boxes. Are you a Republican? Okay, that's good. Do you like this? Oh, that's good. Okay, I'll help you. So why do people go around life now and make controversy? And I think the reason why I do this is because politically in the media, they push this agenda. They want the separation, no different than the mob, where separation gives them strength. That's why I'm always talking about a lot of the government are worse gangsters than the gangsters and the mob. And I'm not justifying the mob by any means because I'm against that too. But if we want to talk openly and truthfully, our government has become the mafia.
Well, Fat Andy, when I was a kid, probably about 17 years old, the statement he said, if you think we're the mafia, he said, you got to see these guys. He said, we rob you, you know you're getting robbed because we use a gun. They rob you, they're just using their pen.
Well, you got Nancy Pelosi, her and her husband made about $600 million, right? And I don't care what, she's Democrat or whatever. It doesn't matter. The other woman, Pocahontas, I forget her real name, and I really don't care for the woman, but
It's the Pocahontas.
yeah, she made a couple $100 million. If me and you did that, or any of our old friends ever did that, they get life sentences. So we do, no matter what they say, live in a two-tier system. My son got pulled over. He had a gun in the car. He got 5 years. Hunter Biden, he got no time. It's impossible. Burris from the Giants, he went to jail, right? And he was a pro athlete, a New York Giant. He was a famous ball player at the time.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, he wasn't the right color. He was black. So they can say what they want. But when Hunter Biden doesn't go to jail and Burris does go to jail, it shows you there's a two-tier system here. And when these politicians are stealing not 100,000, they're stealing millions with kickbacks and NGOs. And when gangsters do it, they get hit with RICO. But yet these government officials aren't getting hit with RICO because obviously it's an organized crime network, because he's not stealing by himself. He needs other people to steal with him. Why isn't he going to prison? Why isn't there no justice? Why is it so hard to get these guys to charge a politician with these criminal acts and these enterprises? Because they're illegal enterprises. These are open, pretty fairly simple RICO cases.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but how I look at it, wrong is wrong and it can't be right. So whether you're doing it in a mob mentality, you're doing it in a political mentality, no matter what mentality that you're doing it in, you're doing something wrong.
Well, and 100%, but Rob.
Maybe they don't get locked up, they don't get persecuted for it, and I understand that part of it.
But I'm going to tell you what their excuse is. All right, I don't mean to cut you off. Their excuse is, well, John, you were a killer. You were out shooting. And I go, now who's the naive one? Do you know how many government people get killed? We had 11 scientists, I believe, right now, in the last 7-8 years that disappeared and killed.
There's one out to 12.
What do you think? That's a coincidence? Let's get a scientific mathematician to tell us, because that's probably in the millions, not billions, of a coincidence, because they say, well, it's just coincidental. What idiot believes that? There's a guy that was going to testify against Gates, Bill Gates, who I personally believe, in my belief, he's a pedophile. He's out publicly speaking because he's a billionaire. He gets to abuse kids. Now, his wife, when she divorced him, all about said, basically, that he's a pedophile, that he was hanging out at Epstein Island. So why don't we start with him? Why aren't we bringing him in? Because if it was any other guy in this complex here, they'd have cuffs on him. They would be torturing and ridiculing him. But yet they're getting this special treatment. And that's why this country is heading downward spiral, because it can't exist like this. With all the robbery, all the treachery, all the killing, this government is 10 times worse than the mob, because the mob don't have the ability to make the trillions of dollars in these transactions these government officials do. And unless this changes, we're going to go down like Rome did. And it really influenced me to get in politics.
There's a lot of people that believe that theory also. So whether it's a theory, it's truth. We won't know until it happens. But the only thing I always bring out is, because the way I lived, I don't use any other, I guess, excuse of what I did. I made choices. I made bad mistakes. I mean, these are things that I did. I can blame the culture. I can blame the neighborhood. I can blame all that. The bottom line is I made these decisions. I'm responsible for that there. And whatever anybody else is doing, it doesn't make it right that I did it one way, they're doing it another way, because wrong is wrong and right is right. That's the bottom line.
100%, I agree with you.
You know,
There is
somebody
no
told me a
excuse.
long time ago, doing right can never be wrong and doing wrong can never be right.
Right.
So if we lived by those standards, I think we'll all be in pretty good shape if we understood that there. But now going into, so we talked a lot about that. We got a little bit involved with politics. We'll probably get involved with that a little bit more later on. But what wasn't that? You explained a little bit about you seen these guys making money and they were a little bit more and you weren't that bad yet. And then you wanted to follow their footsteps. But you became, let's go back a little bit. I had the name, I went away, and then all of a sudden I hear about this guy, John Alite. So it was almost only away for 2.5 years. So what happened in those 2.5 years in your life that you went from, I think, hanging out with my kid brother at one time,
Yeah.
and then being John Alite?
Well, I'm glad you brought up Richie, right? Because I'm hanging out with him. I'm staying with his friends. You know, I'm not close with them, but I'm hanging out with my friends and staying with them. And, you know, and my sister used to be very good friends with them. So I started coming around and they all talked about you, right? All the kids talked about you. And you had that reputation. And they talk about you like godlike. That's our neighborhood. And a lot of those kids were good kids too. They're not gangsters. They were just good kids that were so impressed. This is the mentality of where we were from. And I said, man, I'm going to be this guy. I don't care what this guy was. Now I'm going to be that guy. Because, you know, people would say there was only a handful of us over the years that were controlling the neighborhood, that everybody knew when that guy comes around. He's like, you had a good reputation as always being a nice guy. But you also had a reputation as, God forbid you screw him, you know what this guy's going to do.
My theory in them days was I could be your best friend or your worst enemy.
And you were to a lot of people, both things.
Yes.
You know, so the problem is when guys don't know your personality, they're not sure, is he just going to flip and because they don't understand it. He's just going to turn around, we're drinking in a bar and just, he sees me with 500, he's going to shoot me and take my 500. They don't know. I know we laugh about it, but these are nicer kids and girls and guys in the neighborhood that are hanging out because we stayed at Attitudes and PM Pub and I forget the place that was next door to PM. At one time we had another place over there.
Yeah, I forget.
But what I used to say to these kids that came around that were regular kids, girl and guy, you got to be stupid coming here because every other day someone's getting tortured, baseball batted, shot. I go, what would make you come and put yourself in jeopardy in these bars? You know, as the time when we're in those bars, it's normal for us, but not some outsider. You know, that poor bastard comes in and says the wrong thing to the wrong guy. He ain't going home. Not just getting hurt, he ain't going home. So I never understood because I think they were so naive and they couldn't understand. Because I think about it now, like, what the hell would make them come there? But they really didn't get it. They just, you know, people's mentality is always, I won't be the next victim. It won't be me. But it's always somebody, you know, and that's one of the things even now when I go and I do talks, and I did a talk and there was a girl jogging in Princeton, right? Beautiful area. And she's jogging in the woods. And I was walking through and I had some company with me. And I said to the girl, I go, when she comes back, I'm going to say something. She was driving in. And at the end of her run, I stepped in front of her and she's huffing and puffing. I said, I don't want to scare you. I says, but what happens if I wasn't just a nice guy? You can't even breathe. There's nobody around here. And she goes, yeah, but this is a nice area. It's Princeton. And I said to her, I don't want to insult you. I says, it's a nice area till it's not a nice area. It only takes one person. You could be the one person. You can't go through these woods with nobody around. And especially after you're jogging, they'll wait till you're exhausted. Some guy pops you over the head, pushes you in these bushes. You're done. Why would you take that chance? But they don't think that ever they're going to be that victim like we believed in the street, that we were invincible and we didn't care about our lives. I don't know if you think that, but I didn't care. guys would fake their way through that life. And from how I know you growing up, you didn't care either. We didn't care if we got killed, and as long as we got the guy we wanted to get before we got killed. Right? That was kind of crazy mentality, but that's how we thought.
I didn't value life at all, not mine or anybody else's. And I'm sad that I lived such a long time in that kind of mentality, but that was just who I was at that point in time.
I mean, when I sit back and I think we're sitting here at this age, and we could talk about Frankie Burke is dead, and Angel Costelli's dead, and Dennis Pittman's dead, and Kevin Pittman's dead, Fat Angelo's dead, I go Scott Schuman's dead, Stephen Bonner's dead. We could keep going through his names. Because when people say, could it be that dead? Well, I could keep going with that names. Like Billy Streamer's dead, Mikey Merlo's dead. So I can just keep Patsy, my cousin Adriano's dead. And I could go through those numbers. Probably I could get to about 70 names, I think, if I kept going. And, people are like, is it that bad? Because I remember somebody said, we were talking about my neighbor and we nicknamed it Death Haven. And a girl wrote me and she goes, Woodhaven wasn't that bad. I don't know what you're talking about. So I said to her, because you're a nice girl, you went home to work, to school, to your boyfriend's house and home. I went to the White House, the White Horse, Nino's Pub, Shamrock, and I says, in front of the White Horse alone, Georgie got killed there, Mikey Merlo got killed there, Frankie got killed there, Angel Costelli got killed there, and the two owners from Shamrock on the corner got robbed and killed there by two gangsters. I go, that's just one block. I said, you want me to go now? I'll go down the block to Old Brother Inn. And, I start naming murders. And she goes, I didn't know that. I says, again, you didn't expose yourself to what we exposed ourselves to.
But there was a difference, because it didn't mean the neighborhood was bad. It was if you were in our atmosphere, you were going to face. So it was just us. It wasn't really the neighborhood.
No,
it was you put yourself in situations, hanging out in bars where they knew that's where we hung out. Doing those kind of things. I mean, some of these people did it for good things, but eventually, like you said, usually 9 out of 10 times there was probably a fight.
Well, because it was the inner city. I'm going back to the same thing. We exposed ourselves to the inner city. We didn't live in a middle class or upper middle class neighborhood. We lived in lower, I guess, or upper lower to lower middle. So you have in those areas, if you want it, it's there. If you want drugs, it's there. If you want trouble, it's there. If you want death, it's there. If you want any kind of drugs, it's there. So we went to, and I think it's me, you, and I'm speaking for you, I don't really know. I think we just went through where we didn't have confidence. We didn't know any better. We didn't know that me and you could become UPS drivers and get great pensions and benefits. No one told you that. Did you ever hear that me and you could go and let's go apply for FedEx and work for them? We didn't even know what that was. I didn't even think about that.
Well, to tell you, with me, my mom and dad, legitimate people, worked hard, always had a hard time making ends meet. So why would I want to be at there when the guys down the block with the gangsters making a ton of money, getting a lot of respect? So that attracted me towards that. At a young age, I was hanging out with them, not even at home that much anymore. So the mentality of becoming a legitimate person, like my mom and dad, and never having anything, and these guys having everything, that's how I gravitated towards that lifestyle. So I didn't think about, I mean, we didn't have people in my neighborhood where it's, like you said, CEOs, whatever that, where you want to go with executives, bankers, or something like that there. But the guys down the block were getting all the respect from everybody in the neighborhood. So for me, it was a lot of respect. When they were getting that respect, that's what I wanted for myself.
Yeah, because
and my mom and dad weren't getting that kind of respect in the neighborhood.
But if you look at, like, I'm not a big fan of Mark Cuban. I think Mark Cuban's his name, Dallas Maverick owner, right? I'm not a real big fan of his, but he could be a nice guy. I don't know. It's just not my cup of tea. But he came from family, and I heard his story the other day, or it might have been actually this morning, that he wanted a pair of shoes or something, and his father said, "Go work." So his parents were regular people. They were from Pittsburgh, because my mother moved to Pittsburgh. So it interests me to hear about Pittsburgh, because I hated Pittsburgh. because you couldn't ride your bicycle. The hills were high, and I had to go to every summer. And I was bored. It was an industrial area back then. So I heard him talk about becoming a tech guy. And then he got into IT and he became obviously a billionaire. But he wanted to have money and he wanted to have be treated special. But he didn't think about being a gangster, right? But we did. He thought about, I'm going to be a businessman and become successful, which he did. He worked hard. He went to school. He got a degree, and his success made him buy the Dallas Mavericks. He's all over TV. And the reason why I say I'm not a big fan is because he's a China guy. He wouldn't talk against China. And so, it's communism. And that's where I go back into politics, by the way. And I don't want to tear off too much. Yeah. But he's okay with China making money in China. He didn't want to badmouth them, but he's okay with the slavery that's going on in China with the Uyghurs. So this is where I get political. And he's an independent. He says, because he voted for Kamala Harris. And they asked him, and he goes, how did that work out? And he actually it was this morning, he did an interview with Fox News. But what I was getting at is, well, if you want to be that guy, how are you okay with doing business in a communist country where they're torturing people and they're making pennies? So either you're for China or you're for America, but you're okay as long as your money's growing in China. So,
but that's the key thing. So many things in that sort of, and I don't know a lot about all that stuff, to be honest with you. But most of what I hear is they make a lot of money through China. So, and it's about just making money.
Mitch McConnell, Republican. That's why I said I could go on both sides of the aisle. He's in my opinion, he's a corrupt, 90-year-old, greedy. He's married to a Chinese woman. Sell out to America, and they need term limits. So this is why I don't like some of these people, or I shouldn't say dislike, or because I think it's a strong word. I don't respect them, because there's got to be some moral bound. Like I lost my way morally. I account for myself. I don't make excuses. I'm sorry. Yeah, I pray. I go to church. I talk to God. I fight with it every day. I'd be a liar and say I don't, and each day is me getting through today. And I've done a good job of it for about 16 years now, changing my life. But it's not an easy thing to do because like anybody, their natural instinct, if somebody jumps in the ocean and they're a swimmer, their natural instinct is that somebody is not a swimmer, he jumps in the ocean or falls in the ocean, it's panic. So when I'm not doing something that's natural to me, it's a little bit of a panic mode. You got to get comfortable with the change. So every day is a little bit of a challenge. So for the people that I try to talk to, I tell them every time I speak to them, politically or when I do my lectures and I go to colleges or second chance programs, kids are in jail, is I say one thing: believe in yourself, look in the mirror, have confidence, and have patience with yourself. And you don't live today. I don't live today for you or him or him or him. I live to be a better me every day, because you can't live to anybody else's standards or you're going to drive yourself crazy because you're just never going to be able to do it.
Well, it's hard to meet everybody's expectations.
Yeah.
And that was one of my biggest problems. Once I got paraded around as the up-and-coming star, now I had to meet all the expectations that all these people placed on me to become that person that they said I was.
Yeah.
So it's a tough life to live. But for me, it changed when I was in prison my last time. So, but let's talk a little bit about fatherhood. I don't know how much you know about my fatherhood, because my daughter was born from my girlfriend when I was in a rehab trying to clean up myself in '93. Walked out of her life 7 weeks after she came home, strung out on crack cocaine and all that. The family didn't even want me to be around my daughter anymore. And it's not recently that me and my daughter are communicating because of the witness protection program or all that stuff that happened with me. So for me, fatherhood, I never knew what it was to be a father. But for you, it was a little bit different because you were around for a lot of your children. Am I correct with that?
I was
in a sense.
When I was around, I was very active in my kids' lives.
Okay.
I lost my daughter. I do a lot of talks about opioids, and
Okay.
I do a lot of meetings, one-on-ones, schools. I do it all now. And I thought I knew about drugs like you did, right? Because we used them, we sold them, we were around them. And I was doing talks in the circuit for kids about drugs prior to me losing my daughter. And then I lost my daughter. And then I really understood drugs. And that was the big shift. And the guilt of you can't be a father and be on the street. It just doesn't work. You know, I was a good father when I was home. I went to school trips. I went to all the parent meetings. I went to all the sporting events. I did it all, every day when I was home. So I was home. She was born, my daughter was born in 92. So I'm a good father from 92 to 96. Then I go to prison to 99. So now I'm not a good father anymore. I can lie to myself and say I'm a good father. But then I came home in 2000 and I'm home for 6 months. I'm back in her life. She's happy. Daddy's home. She's 8 years old. I got 4 sons. At the time, I thought I only had 3 sons. And I found out later I had a 4th son recently. And I come home and I'm with my kids. And then I get in trouble again. I go back to jail in 2001. So now we can deal with it, but as kids, they don't know what's going on. They think we're abandoning them. I go back to jail. I get out in 2002. I'm back in trouble again. I go back to jail. Now I leave again. And I get out in 2003 and I'm facing a life sentence with the death penalty. And my kids are all sleeping at night. I kiss them all goodbye. I have a conversation with my father and I says, I got to go, Dad. I'm not going to beat this case. There's too many guys cooperating against me. I had a team of lawyers. I was very wealthy at the time. I owned everything, 11 houses, businesses, nightclubs, parking companies. I was worth millions and millions. My whole family, everybody was great forever. I owned estates, and I just took off. And my kids wake up in the morning and Daddy's gone. And I don't come back until 2013, and after being in prison again for another 10 years. So when you look at it, I come home and my kids are, in their 20s. And how do you explain to your kids, I love you, I'm your good father, but you're not around? Because in their mind, you're abandoning them. They don't understand if I stay, I'm getting life. It's too complex to explain. You're not going to see me anyway. But then I already chose the street prior to over them because once I stepped in, I shouldn't have had kids. And I tell every single father or single parent, mother or father, if the parent's in jail, look at the statistics of what happens to their children if they're in jails. And same with me. My son's in prison now, in and out. My one son, he's done about 9, 10 years now. And he ain't coming out till next year. Again, he got another violation. So now the cycle's continuing because of our lifestyle. So the damage is not just my kids. I lost my daughter. I have a son in jail. I have my other 3 kids are very good. They are well-rounded, not from the street, and thank God for that. But it takes a toll on every inner city kid for the most part, and kids outside the inner city. But for the inner city kids, this is the reason why I'm so passionate about politics, so passionate about doing my talks to these kids, because before they give up on themselves, we got to jump in and try to stop them from becoming us, because there's never going to be a good life after what happened to me. Now, I know your daughter's situation because I know the family. I dated the other sister at one time. And so I know your situation too. But you get the chance of, you lost them as kids, but you get the chance as a father, some redemption, and tell them, it's not you, I loved you. It was me I didn't love. So I don't get to say that.
Yeah, well, I'm just when you're talking, I'm just thinking. So, your thought of being a good father. So you said you were in the lifestyle already, and then you became a father, but you're already in that lifestyle.
That was already before they were born.
Did you ever think, now that you have your children and you're wealthy, to give up that lifestyle and just be the father that your dad was to you?
Yeah, I thought about it. I mean, my father used to tell me all the time, get in a wheel and a rocket chair and sit on your property. Look what you own. You know, now the property's probably worth $10 million. The state back then, it was worth, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 million. 15 acres, built-in pools, baseball cages, outdoor boxing ring, pavilion to work out, 3 houses, a lake. I had everything. You walk out the door, motorcycles, quads, cars, Benz, this, that, convertibles. I travel to wherever I want. And all that doesn't bring you happiness. And I look back and I say, why didn't I get out of that life? And you know as well as I do, we were already neck deep. There is no just walking away. These days it's different. But in our day, nobody's going to let you walk away, especially when you're doing all that work. Meaning, for the people that don't understand the shootings and the killings and the robberies, you've got too many people exposed that don't trust you just walking away now. And it's not that simple. You're not going nowhere. Even though, I used to think about it and I try to not come around as much. And then you got business all over, and then you still got guys that are jumping in, whether, because I'm in the street business. I'm in the nightclub business. I'm in the after hours business. I'm in the parking industry. I have connections to get those parking situations because of my connections from the street. A lot of them. Some of them know. It was just very difficult at that point to make it.
You could have still been around it, but not involved in it deep, but just went to the business side, because I seen otherwise guys become businessmen. Like Paul Castellano was really more of a businessman than he was a gangster. So you could have went. So don't think I'm not trying to.
No, I know what you're trying.
You know what I mean? What I'm trying to do is get a little bit deeper into it, because could it be more money? Could it be more? Okay, I have all this here because there's something, and I've learned this through my faith. There's something inside of us that no matter what we accomplish outside, it's never going to fulfill us. It's always going to be something more, something else, something different, no matter what it is. For me, it was going from being a gangster into just snorting cocaine, into that wasn't enough. Then I had a freebase, and then I had a sex, and then it had to be all these things. I'm chasing after everything to try to fulfill something that's never going to be fulfilled to me unless it's Jesus Christ himself. And I found that through my faith in Christ my last time I was in prison. So I say that there because you're bringing up all these things that you had, but you said you were never satisfied with all these things that you had. So it's always that something else, And I'm just here, and I'm going to share a little bit about that with you. Man, there's a hole in every man's soul. Matter of fact, in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 11, it says that God has placed eternity in every person's heart. Every person's heart. And us, as human beings, we're just searching for this kind of thing to fulfill us. I always used to use Mick Jagger. Mick Jagger wrote a song, I can't get no satisfaction no matter how much I try. And the reason why I say that is because here's a guy that had the fame, the money, the girls, you name it, he had it all. But yet he's singing a song. And it wasn't just a song, but this is a struggle that he was having. That matter what, the drugs, nothing was satisfying him. And that's the point that I try to make with everybody. It's like, we're chasing after something that's never going to fulfill us unless Jesus comes and places himself in our soul, in our hearts. And that's where I'm at today. So I'm more interested in not money, not glamour. We do these things, and that's good. It's just trying to reach people in a bigger, larger capacity than me just speaking in schools and stuff like that. But I'm more interested in people's souls and where they're going to spend eternity, because, and like I said in Ecclesiastes, it says eternity is spent in every. It's God places in every person's heart when you're born. You've been in real estate, right?
Yeah.
The key thing is location, right? Where are you going to spend that eternity? Is it going to be in hell, or is it going to be in heaven? And you could chase all these things, you accomplish all these things that you want. None of that's going to do anything for you. Church and all that stuff, that's very good. These are good things to do. But church and all that doesn't save you. That doesn't get you to heaven. These are good things, and these are byproducts of your salvation. But this doesn't, it's not that I was a bad guy, now I'm a better guy, so I'm okay. No, no, it's not until Jesus, because I could still, even in being a nice guy, chase after all these things all over again. And I always say this here to myself. It's not what I do, but why I do what I do. And for me, it's always going to be about soul winning. But that's my life. Jesus came into my heart the last time I was in prison. I cried out to Jesus, please help me. I mean, everybody, my family, everybody thought I was better off in prison than out on the street. And rightly so, because I'm thinking my family, everybody's going to think, okay, it's just a matter, we're going to hear the obituary, Robert's.
Well, yeah,
Rob in the
they're
street.
scared for you that they don't want you to get
Exactly. So
killed.
they thought, but for me, I felt like unloved. Nobody really cares. I just needed a good attorney, get me out of the mess I got myself into. I was homeless at that point in time, so I don't have any money, no access, no commissary, no nothing. I live in a hopeless life. And then when I called up my daughter, her mom was allowing me to speak to her after I haven't seen her in a couple of years, and she was crying. And I said, Brianna, why are you crying? She said, why won't you come and see me? It shattered my heart, man. Because if I could have ran to a crack house or drink, anything to numb the pain that I was feeling, it was so great, my heart shattered. In Rikers Island, crying, I slammed down the phone. I want the inmates to see me crying, ran back to my cell. And I knew about God. I was raised Roman Catholic. Nothing against Roman Catholics, but for this Roman Catholic, I knew about him, but never had a relationship with him. So I run back to my cell and I cry, God, if you're real, even have somebody kill me or change me. I can't live like that. I don't want to live like this. No. But in my mind, it was death. It was better off than living with the pain that I was in. And because of that crying, the sincerity of me on my hands and knees, pouring out my heart, tears running down my face, I believe God answered the sincerity in my heart. And I was born again at that point in time. And then just life, not magically changed, everything changed. It was going through the process of transformation, sanctification, and God has worked in my heart. And I say that to everybody who, I understand you, man. Listen, man, the reality was you're a terrible dude. In that lifestyle, you were looked up to, but in reality is you were a terrible guy.
But the truth, Rob, is this. You said something earlier, and I want to go back to it a second. First, the drugs saved your life.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for the drugs, you would be doing life or you would have been killed. So maybe God's the one that intervened and saved you through drugs. I don't know, but for sure it saved you. And when you talk about Paul Castellano not being a killer, he was a killer. He killed 23 guys, but he used guys like us to do it. That's the difference between the boss. He's the boss. He sat at home and he actually killed more guys than John Gotti. But when they ask us to get away from that life, and I could have got away from that life different times, but when I get the knock on my door and I'm home and I would avoid coming around, I make excuses for 1 month. Somebody knocks on my door and says, not literally doesn't hand me the gun, but for the people that don't understand, here's, you got to go shoot that guy today. And so you're going right back to work again. Or somebody knocks on your door and says, you got to go kill that guy tomorrow. Or you got a baseball bat that guy tomorrow. And the weakness of that life is, at that time, there was no God in my life. There was nobody challenging me to get away from that life, except for me being weak to not get away from that life. Because it's not strength to be in that life. People got it wrong. I've been shot up. I've been stabbed up. I've been battered. I've been hit by cars. I've been jumped. I don't know how many times. And people go, oh, you're strong. No, you're weak. You're weak because you keep jumping back into that world. And it took me a lot of years in jail and me trying to find God. I just couldn't. In jail, I thought it was a weakness. I believed myself in prison. I'm not going to be one of these guys. Now that I'm in jail, in and out, in and out, in and out, I'm going to say, oh, God, please help me because I'm in jail. And so I didn't really want to, even though I tried to go to church, but I go to church in jail to meet gangsters and go talk. You know what we do. Yeah. And we use it as an excuse. It's not really to talk to God. No. But when I came home finally, and I started reaching out more and trying to find a way to change my life, And then I really changed my life as I started moving on away from it 15 years, 16 years ago. But when I lost my daughter is when I really, really found God. And as I hear a lot of people say that they lost God, curse the church, curse everything because of the pain. And I did the opposite. I ran to him. And it helped me to get through the loss of her and understand that I'll see her again. It also helped me to go further into him.
Okay. Well, good. Well, one thing I want to correct you. This is just yes, it's a thing of words. It's all it is. We say I hear people say, "I was looking for God." God was never lost. You were.
Yeah. No, I know.
God was always there
there.
all the time in your life, throughout your life, whether you could see it or not. The way you said that drugs saved my life, without a doubt. But the greatest thing of it is that not only that is I came into my new life more humbled because I lost all my respect already in the streets, becoming that drug addict. Everybody else was disrespecting me. I lost respect for myself, and part of my family lost respect for me. So when I came in on a different thing. But it's a little bit tougher, I believe, for guys that are coming out of the limelight, so to speak, and then trying to get into and then change their life. Everybody could become a good person. Somebody could change their behavior, but only God could change the heart. It's the desire of the heart that God's after, not your good works, which is part of your salvation. But it's not just that we work to get salvation. We work to find favor with God. It's what he's already did for us on the cross. His death, burial, and resurrection. And accepting him in our lives so that he could transform our lives, not just with good behavior, but with a different heart. And when you speak, sometimes I hear that in you, that you're doing things because you have a heart for those people. I don't question you, but the heart has to be for Christ first, to serve him. That should be our one desire once we're born again Christians, and then everything else starts falling into place. Our relationships start falling into place. Everything that we thought we lost, or we thought that we gave up, or whatever it is, things that God has taken out of our life, replaces it with something better for our life. And I see that happening with you. But I just always want to, and every time we spoke over the phone, whether we did interviews and stuff like that, I always tried to emphasize that more than anything with you, because I have a heart for people, and you happen to be an old-time friend, and I have a heart and a love for you.
And I appreciate it. And look, when I look back, with all the attempts on my life, there's dozen and more of people trying to kill me. People shooting me, people trying to plot to kill me, dozens of plots. For me to be here is naive to say it was luck.
Amen.
So do I believe God's been with me the whole way? 100%. Because so many of our friends got killed for a lot less and a lot less attempts than what happened to me. And I look at that and I understand there's a purpose. And it's one of my motivators of saying, he gave me some reason to be sitting here, and don't what's the word? Don't just throw it away. That's not the word I'm looking for. But utilize it to try to do the right thing with my own life, and try to influence in a good way the people that are struggling just like we did. And just nobody was there. Not that nobody was there. Nobody could reach me at that time.
Yeah.
I just wasn't reachable, because a lot of this, I go to these things and I talk to kids, and I get involved with different preachers, and they get mad at the kids because some of them walk out in the middle of you talking. And I was at something in Winslow, South Jersey, and 4 or 5 kids got up to walk out, and the preacher was a big guy. And he said, no. I said, please let them go. And as they're walking out, the main guy, you could tell they're following him. I said, listen, man, I don't get paid for this. I'm just trying to save your life. I said, I'm not mad that you're walking out. And he's looking at me, and he was listening. I says, because I did the same thing you did, and it cost me half my life. I says, and hopefully you don't lose your life. I said, I know you're not ready to hear me. I said, but I know you're hearing a couple of words I just said. I says, Ben, good luck to you. I'll pray for you, and I hope they change your life. And I don't know what happened to that kid. It was a couple of years ago. And, the preacher asked me afterwards, how come you stopped me? I says, because there was so many guys like you, they're good men, trying to help me. I just wasn't ready to hear it. He's not ready to hear it yet. You can see he's not ready to hear it. You can tell him anything you want. I know you're frustrated and you want to help that boy and you want to help his friends. But it just ain't the time. God will let him know when that time is. Yeah. And, it wasn't his time. I think now, because of everything we went through, or I went through, I tell you, every day I talk to, I do struggle every day. Because if somebody runs into me the wrong way, talks to me the wrong way, I want to react the way I used to react because I know I can get quick, a quick fix to what I want. It's very difficult for me. I'm not at the position still today that you're at where I could just turn around and walk away. I've been doing it, and luckily, and with God's help, it's been about 16 years. But like I said, each day to me is that I just got to get through to today again.
Well, transformation is a process. Sanctification, you are sanctified, is a process of sanctification that happens in our life. I wish I could tell you when I came out of prison, I was this guy that walked with this halo around his head and everybody was getting saved. There's two things that help me doing what I do, because sometimes you'll never see the results of it. And one is, I strongly believe with all my heart that it's never a waste of planting a seed. Planting somebody's seed in somebody's life, whether they get it right there or not, you're planting a seed. So never underestimate the power of planting a seed in somebody's life. And the second thing is, we just do the next right thing that we feel God's calling us to do, and we have to leave the results up to Him. How I do it for me is like, I watch my mailman. I have a house now, and I watch my mailman. They come, go to the post office, their job, get the mail, and then they have to deliver it in everybody's mailbox. Once they deliver it, their job is finished. They're ready to go home. They don't come back to see if I picked up the mail, if I paid the bill or anything like that. It's the same thing how I look at my spiritual life when I try to evangelize with people. I just have to deliver God's message, His mail, and whatever people do with that mail, that's going to be up to them. But at least I'm doing what God has called me to do and putting it in their mailbox. And that's just how I look at it, because sometimes you're not going to see the results. And sometimes we can get caught up that we're not seeing results. And we're thinking, okay, is this a waste of time, me doing something? Nobody's getting it or something like that. But you'll never. And I use this with this lady that I did. My first ministry was nursing homes. That's why I went into nursing homes. And because my mom passed away and I wasn't even around for my mom passing away. So it broke my heart, and I started going into nursing homes and sharing that love that I couldn't give to my mom, that new love that I got, that God had given me. So I went into nursing homes, and there was one lady that was, she had one leg, and I go in there and I preach a message. I went twice a week, every week, and she was Roman Catholic, and you do these ministries and half of the people are falling asleep. You don't even know if you're penetrating. I just kept on doing it anyway. Well, this lady was on her deathbed, and she asked for me to be on her side when she was dying. And the last thing I seen on her face, I was there holding her hand, praying with a big smile on her face. But she was Roman Catholic. My church was not Catholic. She asked my church to do her funeral services. And because of the funeral services, her son and daughter-in-law gave their life to Christ. So you can't see it happening there in the spiritual realm, but something's really happening. We just do the next right thing, and the results will be up to God. Yeah. So I just want to always encourage you to keep doing what you're doing. The motivation is the big thing. It's not for fame. It's not for fortune. I mean, these things, if you get them, God knows what you need. He wants to supply your needs. He didn't say He's going to give you everything you want, but He will supply your needs. But we just got to keep on doing the next right thing and leaving the results up to Him. So keep doing what you're doing, man. We appreciate what you're doing. So let me get into a little bit of the one thing that I want to do. I wanted to end with that, but there's one thing that, because I am amazed, I really am, truly, of where you are So now you're a councilman, which I don't even know what a councilman is, to be honest with you. But I know it's something that's pretty good, cool. But not only that there, but now you're doing acting and stuff like that, isn't I right?
Yeah.
So first tell me a little bit about the acting. So you have a movie or something coming out? A featured film?
Yeah, feature film. I have several movies. I did one of the directors, I know he's probably done about 100 movies. And he called me and he asked me to come to Europe because he was doing a boxing film. He knew I was a fighter. And he asked me to play a part as an announcer with actually one of the guys I met, this guy Mark, was an ex-FBI agent. I didn't know him, but I knew guys that he worked with. So they called me and they told me, hey, you're going to Europe. I said, yeah, to do a film. They go, our buddy's there. He's doing a film. I said, what film? They said, some sort of international boxing movie. I said, that's the one I'm doing. Okay. So, you know, I met him, I called him, and, you know, we got together and we did the film. I got a pretty decent part in. And then I got involved in a race car movie, dirt race car, which is really an amazing sport. It's an American sport, a family sport. And, you know, I was really amazed to be part of it because I didn't really understand that industry yet. And they wanted to also talk about the underlining thing about the movie was fentanyl and the message of saving lives. And they knew the situation with my daughter, and they called me and asked me to play the father of two racing sisters. And they explained it's a family oriented. I read the part, and they told me, "Do you like it?" I'd like it. And they says, "Well, we've cashed you for it." And I did a reading with them, and they liked. They see me in other things, obviously, on TV and documentaries. So they already liked the character of me playing this part. I read from. He liked it. We had a great relationship. The cast, the director was very talented. He's done several movies before. And we just did that, and we just spoke about me getting involved in another movie with them. So I've done 3 or 4. I did another one, which was a short. I did that out of Miami. I believe they all come out in the next couple of months. And then I'm involved in another documentary. So I've been filming a lot. Besides doing the lectures and the podcasts, which I used to be more consistent with until I started doing the movies, which takes up a lot of time. It's a lot of traveling. You're on set, you know, some days 18 hours, 20 hours. And I started casting for other films that they're looking for me to do. And then there's another project in the works, another a TV series. So we're middle negotiating that. So I think that's going to fly too.
So you have an agent and all that?
Yeah, I have an agent. I have a manager. I got a social media team, and I'm terrible technology, as you see. Yeah, my daughter used to laugh the way I said, "What do I got to text? Can I just call everybody?"
That's how I feel the same way. But I have a producer that doesn't like to pick up the phone, so I have to text him because that's just what he likes to do. Yeah. He's a text guy.
Well, I got my daughter's son now. He's 9. And he's an adorable kid, and you know I got a good relationship with him, and his other grandparents and father take care of him. So I see him on the week. Anyway, he teases me because he's so good with technology. He's incredible. So when I need to do something, I just ask him. He's 9, and I tell him, Braden, can you do this for me? And Braden, can you do that? He's like, Pop. He says, can't you figure this out? You know, he teases me. And I'm like, no.
Plus, it's a cheap pay.
Yeah.
Cheap hire. But so you didn't do any. I understood they called you for these parts and stuff like that, but I mean, acting's not easy.
No, there's something. I did a show with John Gotti. You know him from Philly. And the first time I got behind a camera, there was the head of the women's magazine, Cosmopolitan, I believe. He was in the audience when I was doing the filming with John Gotti. And he said, you missed your calling. You should have went into acting. You're camera friendly. I didn't know what that meant. What's camera friendly? So after we started filming, he goes, look, he was filming me and he's showing me different things. He said, this is the industry you should be in. He said, you'll do well in it. So he put it in my head. And then on a De Niro movie recently, I'm not a big advocate of his, but they called me, the head of casting called me and asked me to read for a part, which she liked me after several readings. and she wanted to give me the part, but then it was up to director, I think it was Levinson or somebody, and he denied me the part on that film. But yeah, they've been calling me. I don't really search out the movies. They've been calling me. So
Through your agent or personally?
yeah, through the agent, through personally, whatever way they reach out. But if they reach out, I give it to my manager agent. I don't negotiate. They do.
Oh, okay.
And so they started negotiating things for me. And
No gangster movies?
I really don't like. I don't even watch gangster movies. People ask me, "You never watched The Sopranos?" I go, "Really? No." I watched a couple little pieces here and there because my friend played in it.
Yeah.
So he called me up. He told me I had a part, and I watched it because he was in it. My friend Richie. Actually, they just put something on the internet, me and him. I guess he was filming something, and they showed pictures of me and him when we were younger. And other than that, I don't really watch gangster films. I watch IRA and Irish stuff that I don't know about.
Oh, okay.
I watch that stuff. I like to watch gangster movies like that. But the Italian Mob, I go, why would I watch it? We lived it. So, I don't really have no interest in it.
Yeah, I have a bunch of people who, when they watch Goodfellas, they want me to be there with them to tell them what the true parts are, what the
They don't realize we grew up there.
Yeah, exactly. So.
And people don't know. I was just talking to my friend last night. He said, we're going to meet to do this today. I said, actually, Robert lived in my wife's basement when he was a kid. Because the mother passed away, but she always liked you. She's always asked about you. And she goes, do you talk to Robert? And I'm like, yeah, I do. And then I ran into your ex in Atlantic City, Cookie.
Oh.
So, I seen her a couple of years back, maybe 3 years back, I guess. So, it's a small world. You don't see her in the neighborhood, but I see her in Atlantic City. So
No, I haven't seen any of them in a long time. So, okay, I guess we're ready to close out. I'm not sure how much time we have or anything, but a councilman. What is a councilman anyway? And is it like for all of Jersey or just
no, my borough, Englishtown.
Oh, Englishtown.
Borough.
Okay.
My mayor, I was living in the area. I got involved because of what I was doing with the kids in schools and drugs and local law enforcement. I do talks for different chief of police in Toms River. I do all the colleges. I do second chance programs. And I was, I'm pretty out there now. Over the years, everybody knows me. So the connections from police departments and chief of police from different departments call each other gang units. And my mayor's seen it. And he started to know me, and he asked me, were you interested in Councilman? And I said what you said. What's that? But he knew I was interested because I do a podcast, Left First Right. And we talk politics. And we go back and forth. And the guy's completely on the opposite side than me. And the show was basically about, it's okay to disagree with me. I like the guy. The guy's name's Tony. People go, how do you not hit this guy? And I'm like, he's actually a nice guy, but he says the same thing. All his friends, they hate me because they don't like what I stand for. And we joke and we said, this is what happened in America. You lost the ability to just be open and say what you like without hating the person. It's okay when we don't agree. Elvis Presley said that. We'd all be marrying the same woman and driving the same car. I mean, we can disagree, but stop being so violent about it. And again, you're talking about guys like us or ex-gangsters, street guys, killers, whatever word you want to use. And I'm saying, what the hell's wrong with everybody with the violence? It's okay to disagree. It doesn't got to clobber somebody over the head because you got a different opinion. So the show is both political and to show that, hey, we're friends. We like each other. We joke. I got mad at him one of the episodes and I threw a glass of water on him. And threw it in his face. And everybody said, you threw a glass of water on him. I go, yeah, the difference is I didn't shoot him in the head. I threw water on his head. I go, so.
Baptized, okay, in a sense.
So, but I got into the political stance and he put me up as councilman. They voted on me. I went in. A lot of people didn't like that, thought it was nepotism and blah, blah, blah. So I ran a couple of years ago and I won. And I took the position legitimately. And then I just ran and I got voted in as council president. And I went from that to me and the mayor running for a Monmouth board chair. And now from there, I want to run in the next year or 2 or 3, probably a little sooner than that. I like to try to run for Congress or a state position or something. Okay. I want to make a little bit of a difference because I think what we talked about earlier, I think a lot of these politicians became gangsters. That They're not there for the right reasons. I already did the gangster stuff. I already did the stealing stuff. Now I want to do the right thing. I want to make a difference in some of the beliefs I have, especially for the inner city, because I think that the inner city is being bulldozed by the left Democratic Party, in my opinion. They're only bringing in these illegals and acting like they care about them. And they're bypassing all the money that should go to the inner city in my neighborhoods that I grew up where people are dying every day. They're being abused every day. There's no education. There's no confidence. There's no school training to teach these kids at 5, 6, 7, 8 years old to like themselves, be confident in themselves, understand that you don't have to fit in. You can be a unique child because you are a unique person. You're an individual. You don't have to fit in these groups where you feel like, oh, like in our day, everybody listens to disco or hard rock or rock. You don't got to fit into any of those groups. You want to listen to classical or sometimes listen to disco, or you're not athletic or you are athletic, good. You're an individual. You got to teach these kids to believe in themselves, that you don't got to be like the other 4 or 5 kids. That's why you're you. You're special. And we're not doing that. And all those things of bypassing and giving the rights to illegal immigrants is my biggest pet peeve, because when they say, well, it's not technically breaking the law by entering. Well, when I cut in front of you when you're at a restaurant, or I get in front of you when we're in the street in a car and I just fuck in front of you, it's not technically me doing anything wrong either. And if we don't, if we start changing the laws, well, when I go in the supermarket, I'm just going to eat a banana today. I'm not going to pay for it. Technically, it's not a crime. Let me not go on a crosswalk. I said, I'm just going to cross anywhere I feel like, because that's not a crime. It's nothing. If I don't follow little regulations here and there, you don't feel like, we got to go to the front desk before we come in. We're not going to go in the front desk. We'll just disrespect everybody. Just walk in here, do whatever we want. I'm going to jump in the pool over there when I'm done, because I don't live in this complex, but you're not really technically supposed to do it. How are you going to have a society that is normal based on law and order if every little rule and regulation we just don't follow? A cop pulls me over and I say, well, I really didn't do much wrong. I was only going 7 miles faster than 10 miles over the speed limit. But he tells me, it's 25 miles an hour. I'm only going 40. If I was going 35, you would have let me go. Yeah, but you're not going, well, I don't believe you're right, and I just pull away. That's not life. I wish we could all do whatever we want. We go to Disney World, you got to wait in line for an hour. Let me bring 300 people and cut the line. So, when people give me this nonsense, we know as especially me as a politician now, we know what's wrong and right, and we make regulation and rules for a reason. So society will continue on a path where people respect each other. If we all just do what we want and change and rules and regulations, there's no sense of having people like myself or other people that perform laws or write laws or police officers or anything. We'll just do what we want. When we go to the doctor's office and everybody's waiting, I'll tell them, no, I'm not waiting. I'm going in front of everybody. How about all those people that are trying to come to this country legally that cannot get in because there's so much illegal activity and money going around? And when it's insulting for politicians to say they care about these illegal immigrants, no, they don't. They care about getting electoral votes. They care about getting municipal votes, the local ballot votes. That's what they care about. They don't care about the person that's already in Brownsville. How about that kid that's in Brownsville that's trying to get out? Why are we bypassing them? Why are we giving money when you have 50,000 homeless vets in the street and we're bringing illegals and putting them in 4-star, 5-star hotels for free? How about that how about that veteran, that poor guy that's living homeless in the street that you just bypass it? Well, how about that single mom that's got 5 kids or 4 kids or 3 kids? If you got extra money, give it to her. Why are we giving it to other people in this country? I'm sorry, they got to wait online, just like the people in this country are waiting online for what we should be doing and taking care of them. And every time I see this poor victim, a girl being raped or killed, or child trafficked, or a woman that are being on their way over, even people that are trying to get here illegal, they're being raped. They're being killed on the way over. The money that's going through the cartels is only more money to go for to pay for more drugs, more prostitution. So I understand the criminal acts of what's going on, and I understand the thousands of victims that have been killed by illegals in this country. I'm sorry, you got to be vetted. No different than me, you, or anybody else. You pay for consequences of our action. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not hating on the guy that tries to come in this country illegal. You want to do it? Do it. Go ahead. But there's consequences to your action. So don't cry the blues when they throw you out. You knew what those consequences are. You were willing to take them, and you're going to have to accept the consequences. Same as us. We did bad things. We had to pay for them. There's no sense of crying about I did it. I didn't do it. I didn't mean it, making excuses. No, you did it, just like they did it. We were talking yesterday, and we're talking about somebody on a highway. We're all in traffic, and you wait an hour in traffic, and this guy gets on the shoulder. I don't hate on him. I don't try to block him. I see people always do that, try to block. What are you trying to block him for? If the guy wants to go, let him go. But if he gets pulled over and he gets 4 or 5 tickets, oh, well, I'm not hating that he got 4 or 5 tickets, but I'm not the guy that wants to take that chance. I don't want to get 4 or 5
Well,
tickets.
let me ask you a question. Were you rooting for him to get caught?
No, I'm rooting for him to get away, actually. And same with the illegals, really. If you come here and you're legitimate and you're not hanging out with guys that are gang members or guys that are selling drugs, or you're not doing, I root for you to go be free. I really do. If you got excuse the way I say
As long
it,
as they
the
can make
balls to
something
do
out of
it,
their life.
if they're
though.
doing something positive, go ahead.
Yeah.
But if you get caught, don't sit there saying, "Oh, why are you doing this to me?" You know why they're doing it to you. But so I'm all for trying to come in here illegally. I've done everything in my life trying to beat the system. But if that's what you want to choose to do, you got to also be able to choose to take those consequences.
Well, a lot of people don't use consequential thinking. They just respond.
And I got to say one last thing, because I'm very passionate about this. And I'm one big advocate. You come here and you rape a girl, you beat a girl, you kill a girl. Forget about men, okay? Men, we're men, even though there's a double standard, what I'm saying. I don't care. When illegal comes, I just believe that they got to suffer the consequences of those actions, because that woman's never going to be the same. And that means for me, and these are my beliefs, it should be the death sentence or a life sentence. You want to ruin a girl's life, you want to beat her, kill her. And I look at that little 12-year-old girl that was raped and killed and tied up by 2 savages. These ain't, and people are going to say, well, you were a killer. And I'm not justifying, again, my life. Right? There's a big difference of our actions as men with each other. We're the guys, or I was anyway, and I believe you were, that if I seen somebody do that to that little girl when I was in her life, I would have tortured and killed them. Whether that's, people say, well, you're not judge and jury. I know I'm not, but that's what I would have did. That little baby was tortured, choked to death, and drowned in a pond at 12 years old. So because of the actions of some of these illegals, like we're in school, the actions of 1 or 2 bad apples, you're not getting recess today. Well, same with the illegals. I'm sorry, there's too many is committing crimes against our women and children in this country that it just can't be allowed. This is not Disney World where everything's happy and safe. It's reality.
Well, Disney World's not even happy and safe anymore neither, to be honest. All right, well, I think we're wrapping it up more or less. We're coming out to a close. So how would I like to close this? And I always have a favorite saying that I use, but just go looking at your life, where you were and where you are today, and you're saying that you've been on the straight path, working towards doing these good for the last 16 years. So I don't know, I'm guessing you're somewhere in your 60s now?
48.
Are you?
No, I'm joking.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say, but you're my brother's age.
I wish I was.
Yeah, so,
I take that.
Okay. But anyway, so you're doing it a long time, and the same thing with me, 42 years old, came out of prison, 45, and God has just worked miracles in my life, and I see him doing the same thing in your life. So the nutshell of all is this would be what I would like to say to everybody who might be listening to this. And I strongly, strongly believe, you say advocate, I don't know what that word actually means, but hopefully it means strongly, strongly believe in something. That it's never, never, never too late for a new beginning, man. you could start life no matter what you've been through, no matter what struggles you might be going through. It's never too late to change your life. And for me, my life changed, my decision accepting Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior when I was in that prison cell gave me that new life. Anyway.
For my legacy, for me, I want to right all the wrongs I did in the past, which I can never get. I've been therapy my whole life. I talked to some really good priests, and I had some priests that ruined some of my life and some of my friends' lives. And but I'm not a guy that hates the whole institute because of some bad priests.
Oh, no.
So, I keep it, I keep it as honest and as real as possible about, you judge people for who they are, each person. And for my life, I can't take back what I did in the past, but I want my future to be this guy that overcame the adversity of his past, all the years of jail, all the years of bad decisions as a violent gangster, and to do it the right way now, be successful the right way, be respected as a politician, be known to try to help and save some lives. I go and I've done things over the years now. I go feed the homeless. I do different things. And, when people say, wow, that's really nice of you. And I said, it's not about me being nice. It also helps me. They help me. It's not a one-way thing like I'm this great guy talking to these kids, because I tell the kids too, listen, you're helping me as much as I'm helping you. Yeah. This is, for me,
two-way street.
Yeah, it's a two-way street. It's not, well, I'm this great guy, I go out every day and I do all these things and I'm patting myself on the back. That's not what this is about. This is about every time I do that, I'm helping them and they're helping me. So it's an exchange. It's almost a barter agreement that they don't even know they entered in with me, because it's helping me be the person I am today. The guy that I want to be respected. I want my kids to be able to say, "Hey, that's my father." I respect them for that, not for the fake,
Right.
even though it's out in public and, and people say, well, but I want to be respected now as being that actor that's on TV or doing those movies or doing the positive things in life that I didn't do in my past. So I'm getting it.
Instead of demanding respect, you command respect.
I try to earn respect. Yeah.
Well, commanding respect is how you live. People just want to respect you and give you that respect. For me, I'm not a big thing about legacies, but if anything was going to be on my tombstone, it would be say, well, I'm going to get cremated. So I don't know how they do it then, but anyway, I don't have. I wanted to say he loved Jesus, he loved others. That would be my thing. I'm a soul. I'm after people's souls, man, and that's just
people listen. You're going through life every day, and it's part of your legacy. I think any human being. You want to be that happy person walking in the room. You want to be that person, well, hey, let's invite him to party. He's always in a good mood. He's always happy. He's always smiling. He's always a good morning to people. I hate that miserable when someone has that mug on all the time. You get up and it's Sunday morning, I go to church, and you're going to church and you're supposed to be smiling and happy, right? And they're looking at each other like they want to fight each other. I just never got it. So when you go to church, if any time in your life you're supposed to be smiling, it should be there. So I want that. If anything is my legacy is being that guy that people always say, hey, he's a nice guy, he's a good guy. Not that guy from 40 years ago.
Amen. Yeah. Well, once again, John, we thank you so much for taking that time out and sharing your part of your life with us. And like I told you in the beginning, and I speak to you over the phone sometimes, it's just an amazing from where you were to where you are today. And I see God's work in your life, and I pray that you continue to search for His will, His purpose for your life today, and continue. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, brother.
Love you, my brother.
Love you.
Hey, how yous all doing? Did you like this here video that we did with John Alite? Well, like this one. Whatever. Wherever it is. It's there, though. Follow it. Thank you.